All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to talk about the Cowboys and whether or not they're in for a regression year. We have a Hawaiian 5-0 in the chat. What's going on? Hope everything is well. One of the football podcast regulars. He hasn't been in the chat in a little bit, but hope everything is well. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the Cowboys ahead of their Week 1 matchup against the Browns. And similar to the Dolphins, NFL executives or coaches believe that the Cowboys may regress in the 2024 season. And, I guess it has to do with coaching and, the kind of offseason that they had, because they did lose pieces. The running back situation is not great. I mean, they brought back Ezekiel Elliott, and now they recently brought back, not brought back, but brought in Dalvin Cook. And if it was 2019, this would be the best backfield in the NFL, but it's not the case. These guys are a little bit older and past their primes. So that's one issue. The Dak Prescott contract situation, that's going to be hanging over their heads for the whole season because it doesn't look like they're getting that done before the regular season starts. So, I mean, they at least got CeeDee Lamb's deal out of the way. They got him done. But that's the one thing that's could be hanging over their heads the whole year is Dak's contract. And, I've been saying all along that I think Dak is on his way out the longer this drags on for. I mean, I could be wrong. A deal could be signed tomorrow and everything is right in the world again. Because Trent Williams actually recently worked out a deal with the Niners. So, there was some concerns that he wasn't going to be playing in Week 1 against the Jets. Well, he's going to be playing. So the Niners got all their contract situations out of the way. But the Cowboys with Dak Prescott, that still remains to be seen. Also, I'm hoping Jamar Chase signs a new deal soon because I need him this week in fantasy. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of a regression year for the Cowboys, I mean, they've been a team that, consistently wins, 11, 12 games the last couple of years. And, for the most part, they're finishing, first or second in the NFC or the NFC East. And this year, I do think that they're going to finish in second place. I have the Eagles winning the division. But in terms of regression, I mean, other than maybe finishing in second place, I think the Cowboys are where they're always going to be. They're going to be a good regular season team. They'll put up good stats on both sides of the ball. But ultimately, what's going to end up happening is they're going to get to the playoffs and they're going to lose. That's really how I see it going. Now, if they miss the playoffs, that'll be a major disappointment for them. And, things are going to have to change. Because, with Mike McCarthy, they haven't really gone far. Now, even with Dak Prescott, they really haven't gone far. The furthest they've made it is the divisional round. Really, the best year for them with Dak was probably his rookie year, honestly. Because they were the number 1 seed. They had one of the best offenses in the league. You had prime Zeke, you had prime Dak. Well, I shouldn't really say prime Dak, but you had prime Zeke. That was your chance to do it. Even last year. You didn't have prime Zeke, but, you didn't have Zeke at all. But the NFC was weak last year. That was your chance to do it, too. But they ended up losing to the Packers, who were the 7th seed. Cowboys were the 2. They would have been able to avoid the 49ers until the NFC Championship game. but they ended up losing to the Packers. And then the best chance that they had, excuse me, best chance that they had back in 2016, that was also against the Packers. That was the Aaron Rodgers. Last year was with Jordan Love. So, in terms of regression, I mean, maybe they lose one more game or two than they have in the regular season. Like, instead of 12-5, maybe they go 10-7, 11-6. I think that's what I had them around finishing. But other than that, I don't really see a ton of regression. Because I just think with the stars that they have, with Dak, with CeeDee Lamb, on the offensive side of the ball, and then you got Micah Parsons on the defensive side of the ball, DeMarcus Lawrence, and you got Trayvon Diggs coming back. I just think that, with the guys that they have, they're going to get their regular season wins. They play in a weak division outside of Philly. They're going to beat up on Washington. They're going to beat up on the Giants. Well, I know the Giants they'll definitely beat up on. I don't know when the Giants are ever going to come out from underneath Dallas. I mean, the last time that they beat Dak was 2016. Dak Prescott does not lose against the Giants outside of his rookie season. So the Giants got some work to do, before they are able to beat Dallas. But I just think the Cowboys are going to continue to be a good regular season team. Now, I'm curious to see how the running back situation is going to be. Because right now, I don't really know what to expect. Like, again, you bring back Zeke, you bring in Dalvin Cook, you got Deuce Vaughn, Rico Dowdle. But who's going to separate themselves as the lead back? The Cowboys are going to be able to run the football. And they lost guys in free agency. You lost Tyron Smith, who's been a staple on that offensive line for years. And I also just think they're a little bit thin and wide outside of CeeDee Lamb. You can't afford an injury to him. Because Brandon Cooks is past his prime. I mean, they got Jalen Tolbert. I know I kept saying Kevontae Turpin, but Jalen Tolbert's the guy that they're hoping has a big year. And you got Jacob Ferguson at tight end. So they got weapons on this offense. But I do think, CeeDee Lamb goes down, that's going to be a huge problem. So they got to hope that he, stays healthy the whole year and is able to, oh man, excuse me. Yeah, still battling this cold that I got, so just bear with me. But we're getting better. We're getting better, but it's just, it's still lingering, which is very annoying, but it is what it is. But yeah, they're a little bit thin. So I do worry about, an injury. So, and even, on the defensive side of the ball, one of the biggest concerns with the Cowboys is depth. If some of their starters go down, because already Deron Bland's out, so, that's a big injury on the defensive side of the ball. If the injuries start to pile up, how is that going to impact this team? So that's really my biggest concern. But yeah, I mean, in terms of a regression year, yeah, maybe they lose one more game or two, but they're still going to be a playoff team. I can't keep Dallas out of the playoffs. Now, is it possible they miss it? Yeah. I mean, it's not like they have made the playoffs every single year for the last 10 years. But outside of the COVID season, with Mike McCarthy, this team has made the playoffs. Made the playoffs in 21, 22, 23. So, I mean, I expect them to be a playoff team. It's just what are they going to do when they get to the playoffs? I don't think that much. You know, they had a chance. I picked them to go to the NFC Championship game last year. I did, because I just thought, they're playing a young Packers team, and then I think I had them playing against the Lions again, but I think I had them winning over the Lions, and then they had them playing the Niners, but they didn't even get out of the first round. But that's kind of what it's been with Dak Prescott. You make the playoffs, but can't get out of the second round. They haven't made it to a championship game in a long time, and I think that's going to continue. And if that happens, could be seeing a lot of changes, not just head coach, but at quarterback too. And it really, if they move off of Dak Prescott, it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. Like, does Trey Lance end up taking over? Now, I know it was a preseason game, but the way he looked in that game against the Chargers, 5 interceptions and 2 fumbles, not good. Not good. Did have that big touchdown run, but, the bad outweighed the good in that game. But it's a preseason game, but still, that's just, you don't want to see that. So, we'll see what happens, but let me know what you guys think. What kind of season do you think the Cowboys are going to have in 2024? So, before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again, tip or donate and get your comment recognized, go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help you create a super chat. Any comment that you might have or might want to see displayed during the live broadcast, it'll put it out there. I'll acknowledge it during the broadcast, and it just makes the show more lively between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, and any contribution that you can make to the show means the world to us. And also the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment, GSMCPodcast.net. Again, any contribution you guys can make to the show would mean the world to us as we put out content each and every day for you guys to view. So, when we come back from our next break, we'll talk about 2 quarterbacks ahead of their Week 1 matchup on Friday, Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts, as they get ready to square off in Brazil. And we'll talk about the kind of seasons that I think they'll have and, who is more likely to win MVP. So we'll get into that discussion when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.